All right, hi everybody. So on the Facebook group, you'll have noticed that I've been posting a new diagram of what I say that your soul looks like, and it's this sort of rainbow disc diagram or little graphic. And in a previous video, I talked about disc wars from the movie Tron, how just interesting it was that the movie Tron has disc wars, and this disc is a thing that you wear that contains all the information of your life history, right? And how the disc is basically the shape of your soul. So let's get into like the abstract shape of your soul. I mean, it's not physically shaped like that because it's dimensionless and immaterial. But if you were to draw a diagram of it, that's the only real way that you could draw a diagram of what your soul looks like. And I mean, probably, yeah, that's how the soul camera would basically work. It would work along some function like that, which I will show you in just a second here. So let's get into that. What does your soul look like and how does it work? Great, so you guys all remember this. This is the idea of the basic circling. Hockney discussed this a lot in the God series books, in the ontological mathematics books. So this is your basic circling, right? And the circling is going through the complex number plane, which means that it's making a cosine wave in real numbers and a sine wave in imaginary numbers, right? And so that's your basic circling, yeah? Great. And then remember the infinity multiplier. The infinity multiplier applies and is such that if one of these can self-exist effortlessly with no effort, then any number of them can. But not only that, any number of them only over any number of frequencies likewise can exist. And so different frequency, what's a different frequency going to be? That was one thing that Hockney never really got right in his books. In the books, was never really explained well, but I have now explained it for you. And we would show different frequencies with different circles. I'll show this in a second. You get different frequencies by having different circle sizes with the point traveling around at the same speed along every single circle circumference. So you will have a diagram that looks like this as your monad. So now, whereas previously we had one circle, the rotation is now clockwise instead of counterclockwise. Not a big deal. I prefer it clockwise for reasons we could discuss elsewhere, if you like. But in any case, so whereas before we had the single circling producing a single frequency, now we have a whole bunch of different circlings, little circles, and these would all produce different frequencies. You can see that this point moving around this tiny circle in the middle is just going around really, really, really fast, right? So that's going to produce a very high frequency. And this point moving around the very outside is moving around slower, and so it's going to produce a slower frequency, a longer wavelength, lower frequency, right? Very neat, right? And so what else did I want to tell you about that? Oh yeah, so these points, so one thing that Hockney got wrong in his book was saying that all the points would go around at the exact same angular frequency. That's not actually ontologically valid because the speed of these points is actually constant, not in angular terms of angular frequency. It's much more sensible to do it in terms of speed through numbers, right? Because what is a point moving through? A point has no awareness of angle, right? Angle, I mean, it's kind of arbitrary. It's not really arbitrary, but it is kind of, right? But a point can't measure angle, right? A point is moving through numbers. That's what it's moving through. A point is moving through numbers, and if it moves through a perfect circle of numbers, then that's when it's a net resultant of zero and can self-exist without any outside effort, right? So the point is moving through numbers. So all of these points are moving at the exact same rate of speed through numbers, right? Because that's what they move through. That's the only thing to move through is through numbers, to move in, right? And to move conceptually in and mentally in. That's the only thing there is to move in is numbers, right? That's the only thing that could denote change in position, right? Is ontological numbers. So each of these points is actually moving around at the exact same speed through numbers, right? There's less numbers to travel around for this tiny circle. And because there's less numbers to travel around, it has to travel around that small number of numbers, that small range of numbers, right? Very, very quickly, whereas this outside circle has a much larger range of numbers to move through, and so it moves through those at an angular frequency, which is slower compared to the inner one, right? And so that's how you get different frequencies. And then that is also the origin of the speed of light. They're all moving at the exact same speed. All these points, they're different angular frequencies, but they're identical numerical rates of movement through the imaginary complex plane of numbers. And so that is your constant motion, which then is reflective of the speed of light, right? So pretty neat, right? So that's what your monad is doing. This would be a perfect monad where all the components are lined up. I had another video that I should have put it in it. Why didn't I put it in this thing? Let me go do that for a second. I'm gonna just grab it, pull it up here. Here it is. So here's one that I did just with, it's in a complex number plane, and I'm plotting the relation, I think, how am I plotting this? Basically real and imaginary numbers, and I'm just showing that, I think I must be doing, because how am I getting the ellipse? I'm plotting real versus imaginary, or something like that anyway. It's indicative of the non-orthogonality between the real, between the cosine wave and the imaginary sine wave, right? So that's why it starts off with them all screwed up looking and misaligned like that. And then this is the evolution of your soul, basically is all of these components, these circlings coming into phase, and as a result of coming into phase of fixing their non-orthogonality, the result of fixing that is that you get then after evolution becoming through the universe, all your circlings and your phases and your non-orthogonality problem gets fixed, and you end up with a perfect, symmetric, beautiful monad that's symmetric and beautiful and wonderful. So it starts off all crazy. All the phases are getting reorthogonalized, getting themselves all figured out. So here, let's just start from the beginning, right? So it starts off all mixed up, all jumbled up, and then over time, over becoming, all those frequencies get reorthogonalized. The sine wave and the cosine at a given frequency, they get reorthogonalized with each other. So they come into phase, come into alignment, perfect alignment with each other. And then once you go through a whole universe of that, or whatever it takes, whole universe, I suppose, then that's what this process is midway through. Boom, you go through the Big Bang process, which deorthogonalizes your frequency components. You'll notice that it's only the outer ones I've shown get that problem where they go out of phase, and you get all the weird ovals, right? The inner ones stay perfect. That's just sort of picking up on the idea where Hockney said that, it's only the outer frequencies, the lower frequencies, which make up space-time, and that we, inhabit in our body, in the physical body here, in the space-time material 3D universe world. The inner higher frequencies don't do that. They stay. That's your higher self, right? That's your higher soul, your own God, basically your inner God, and it stays in the mental domain completely. And so that's why they stay perfectly circular all the time, and it's only the outer circles, the outer frequencies, which undergo this evolution becoming process. Neat, right? So that's kind of neat to see that too. All right, so I'll reclose that. Good, yeah. So this is just what a basic perfect monad would be doing, would look like. Great. So continuing on from that, since we can't have moving pictures on paper, obviously if you have a GIF. But anyway, how can you represent this idea in a simple way? So that was what I had originally came up with. Actually, was just showing it this way. So just with all the different frequencies, or all the different circle sizes, implying different frequencies. It was, I understood what it meant. Now that you've seen it, I made an animation so that you could see what I meant by that, by this diagram, right? So there's your, the inner part, and then just all the different circle sizes. So that's one way to represent it. Yeah. And then in some video somewhere I discussed the idea that there's this hermetic seal, a frequency which sort of changes realm between the 3D material world versus to the spiritual inner world, right? A different plane. of existence. So these outer frequencies, these two outer lines, just two representative of the outermost frequencies, which are the frequencies which go into space-time and make up our space-time body and our space-time universe experience. And then there's some transition point in frequency at which you would exit the 3D world and go back into the singularity mind world, where everything is connected again, right? So that's what that dashed line is kind of representing. And I said it kind of represents the idea of the perfect hermetic seal, that nothing gets in or out unless it should, I suppose you would say. And then I'm going to extend that, and I'm going to use two lines now to show the idea of different planes of existence. So now again, you might have the outer frequencies, which are the 3D world, and then you have, a higher world that could be the world of angels and higher spirits. And then above that, you have, the spiritual domain and even higher spiritual world, things that would be even above angels and spirits or something. Or actually, this is a good way to look at it too. So these two frequency bands right here, just this frequency band between these two dash lines. So think of that actually as the human sphere now. Let's think of that as the frequencies which make up the human mind, human experience, right? Human interaction with the universe, right? And then below that, you have the lower, or what's, you would call that a lower order of life. Not that it's lower in some sense, less useful. It's obviously very useful. What I'm talking about, obviously, is, say, the animal kingdom and bacterial kingdom and stuff like that. So they exist at a lower order, right, than us. And then so this would be humans in between. And then the next level up would be the domain of mind, pure mind, which is the domain of angels and your higher self and God. And so, one way to think of that is, if you consider, let's do it this way. So if you're on this outer frequency band, that's the band of bacteria, plants, and animals, right? Now compare humans and what humans have. Humans are operating at a higher frequency. What can humans do compared to the lower kingdom, right? We can do godlike things, right? We can do amazing things that the world of bacteria and plants and animals simply cannot do. Plants and animals and bacteria, although they have their sort of own versions, in a crude form, we build skyscrapers. We as humans build, rocket planes, go to the moon, things like that, rocket ships, airplanes, cars, all sorts of stuff. We think, we ponder the universe at a level that, the bacteria and plants and animals simply don't and would never do. And because of that ability to ponder the universe and understand it, we can engineer things and do things that the lower kingdom could never do at all. Now, guys, as above, so below. Now extend that to the higher realm where the angels and our higher self and God lives, right? That domain is now the same in relation to us as we are here to the lower domain of plants and animals, right? So the higher domain relative to us of the angels and your higher self and God, that domain can do things, and the entities that live there and reside there, they can do things, right, that are far beyond what we can imagine, right? They can engineer, and if you've had experience with synchronicity and things like that. And actually in my book Planet Wars, I actually wrote about an experience of synchronicity I had, right? While I was having that session, talking with the universal subconscious, which is, the basically the inner realm there, where all the monad windows are open. They can all, speak as one voice, basically. At least that was the idea I had. That what I was supposed to be communicating with. Anyway, they did this thing, and they turned on my Roomba. And they had it planned that it would turn on right during that thing. My Roomba automated vacuum cleaner just, had been sitting there for like a year. No one ever touched it. We didn't care about it. I didn't even remember it existed anymore. And all of a sudden, it just turns on and starts running, right? So that was a synchronicity that was coordinated by the higher realm. That it was beyond my ability to imagine how they did that, but they did that, and they made it happen, right? So anyway, synchronicities, I'm sure many people, if you're paying attention, about Jungian synchronicity and all that. If you've had those experiences, hopefully you have. Otherwise, I'm probably talking gibberish and I sound insane. That's all right too. I'm happy to fulfill that role. So anyway, yeah, so neat, right? Isn't that a fun diagram that you can use to sort of explain that? I had such a great conversation with my little daughter about that, and she totally got it. As the lower world of bacteria and plants and animals is to us, so we are to the higher world. We call it second mind. We've adopted the term second mind. We just call a lot of things second mind, right? Second mind being, it's from, I think it's Hudson, right? That author Hudson and Hockney had discussed him, referenced that author quite a bit across a few of his books. I think under one of the other author names. It wasn't Hockney, it was one of the other authors. But anyway, we have adopted that term second mind. It's just a very easy way. But I always make the point. We call it second mind, but it's actually not second mind. It's actually first mind, but we call it second mind because our mind here feels like it's our first mind, right? But that mind we're calling second mind, the subconscious mind, it's actually first mind. It's actually the first mind. So there's so much fun you can have with these daggers for teaching, right? This is what we would teach in ontological mathematics education curriculum. As part of the spiritual aspects, right? Teach in our school, teach children how their soul works and what the relations of the different orders of existence, right? Let's call them kingdoms or orders, right? Planes, I guess, if you want to use it that way. Not meaning that the Earth is a plane, the Earth is a sphere, but you get it, right? So much fun, right? See what we can do with that. That was good. All right, so then I thought, okay, well, how can I represent this to people that the different frequencies mean different energies? Well, it's like, well, just use some color coding, right? And so now I've just superimposed this diagram with the lines, with the circular lines, and I've put a color-coded disk behind that, and now we're just going to, so that's just to show you the idea. So these inner frequencies, the small circles, are higher frequencies, so higher frequencies are higher frequency light. So I'm just using the basic red, yellow, orange, green, blue, violet spectrum here, right? For going from low frequency to high frequency, right? So the lowest frequencies are red, and the highest frequencies are then purple and in the middle, right? So what I did with this one diagram, then it's nice and smooth. So this would be like basically basically your monad, what it looks like, except here I have, and there's a reason why I have shading to black in the middle and shading to black on the outside. So this would kind of correspond to, let's call that the realm of comprehension, or the realm of existence of the human sphere. So going back to this one, these two lines that are bounded by these two dashed circles, right? So beyond, to lower frequency, you can't perceive it any more directly, and to higher frequency, you can't perceive it any more directly, right? So we kind of have a band of awareness. So it's banded, so higher than that band, it becomes dark again, simply because you can't see it. And then lower than that band, lower frequency, again, it becomes dark because you can't see and perceive it. So basically there's, how many frequencies there would be. I don't know, probably a lot, like a very, very large number. Let's say there's 10 to the 30 frequencies, 10 to the power of 30, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of frequencies, which make up the mental and physical nature of our human interaction with the universe. And so as a process of becoming for your soul and for yourself, when you become God, or, become an angel, you can exist in a mental domain. What you probably want to do, right, is, that's the reducing valve idea, is that you have a limited range of awareness, right, in the 3D realm as a human. But ideally, as, an absolute and complete and perfect God, there would be no dark banding. You would see completely to the outermost edges, and you would see completely to the innermost core. You would see completely, perfectly to the outermost lowest frequency, and you would be able to comprehend, that is, to the complete center highest frequency core of this structure of your own monad, which is a reflection of the grand monad singularity of existence. And so that then would be represented by this diagram, where it just goes out, doesn't blend out to dark, because you see everything. So the lowest frequency would be, red, and the highest frequency is purple, because, we're just still mapping things to the human, perceptual optical spectrum, right? And so the outermost frequency is red, and then you go red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, violet in the middle being the highest frequency, right? And so that would be the complete monad of, say, the grand singularity, or a perfected monad, a perfected God monad, when it has completely reached the complete final end. The only thing left, once a monad achieved this, let's just call it color perception of itself and of existence around it, that could only happen at the very, very end of the universe. In complete and total perfection is when the soul would look perfect like this, to the outer extremity, to the innermost core. And at that point, there'd be nothing left to do. And at that point, then you would have the reset to the reorthogonalization to bring you back to a state like this, where you exist in a band of perception, something like this anyway, right? And there's parts of the universe of existence where you don't see. And so why do we expand consciousness? What is the whole point, and why was expansion of consciousness, the expansion of consciousness, so important, right? Making the so what are these black regions, right? These dark regions, that's your unconscious, right? So there's unconscious. And what did Jung always say, right? Make the unconscious conscious. And that was what the Hackney books and Illuminism is all about. Make the unconscious conscious. What is that? That is the expansion of consciousness. So going through the expansion of consciousness is making these dark bands recede and go away until you end up with no dark bands anymore. And yeah, perhaps you could have situations where there's a dark band right in the middle here, right? Or going around at this frequency. That'd be neat to show. I should do that. And that would indicate regions of deorthogonalization that are still remaining within your soul as a human, right? So say here, around this blue-green transition, there'd be some darkness there. The darkness there, like a shaded dark, like shading in and shading out dark, that would indicate. See, I like to just do things conceptually. I should have had that. I just thought of this idea now, actually. So that's why I don't have a graphic for it. So I hope you can just imagine along with me. So you'll see how this is shading out dark and how this is shading out dark right here in the core. So just imagine a region, a line, a circle here, a little torus here that's shading dark and then coming back, right? To blend back in with the color. So that would indicate a region in your soul, in your human experience as your soul, as your human experience, which still has deorthogonalized frequencies, which indicate some things that you need to solve either in a future life or in your current life that possibly you're working on, things you need to do to overcome, right, and become, right? And so that would bring those things back into alignment and give the color back instead of it being dark. Now, that then, by the way, would be how the soul camera would work. This idea of the soul camera that Hackney had a while ago. That would basically be the functioning, how your soul function, or how the soul camera would work. It would, in theory, I mean, it's probably done in some different ways, some printout with numbers, or who knows, or maybe they can convert it to a diagram like this. But that's what the soul camera should be able to basically plot, would be a diagram like this, and it would show the dark bands. And how could they tell? Remember, they said the soul camera could tell how close you are to gnosis and various things in your life, right? So they would be able to tell how close you are to gnosis by how many dark bands you still have in here. If you have a bunch, there might be a whole bunch of ripples, right? You have a dark band going around here in the yellow. You have another dark band in the green. You have another dark band in the blue. So that would indicate, oh man, yeah, that guy's got a lot. The guy or girl has a lot of stuff to go through and a lot of stuff to resolve in their life. Whereas another person might look really clear and they'd have hardly any dark bands and be like, okay, well, that person is on the verge of gnosis. They're definitely going to probably get gnosis when their physical body dies and they transition. They're close enough to be able to pop into the mental world permanently, right? So that's basically how the soul camera would work, and it should be able to produce diagrams like this of your soul. And like I said, it would be able to show you things about, show you bands, show you dark bands. I'll probably produce that now. Too bad I didn't do that here. What I could do is pause it and come back, but I don't want to. I want to finish this video, so I'll probably post it on Facebook or something in the future. I hope that you can just use your mind's eye to imagine what I'm talking about. So just imagine a shaded little torus circle going around here in the green-blue transition, say, or another one out in the yellow here. There's just a dark band. What does that mean? It means that there's a de-orthogonalized frequency out there, which means it's something that your soul is still working on in the 3D realm to fix so that it can pop out. Once it's done that, then it can pop out into the mental domain and stop having to reincarnate to work on that problem in the 3D domain. Why does it have to do it? Because that problem exists in the 3D domain, so it has to incarnate into the 3D domain, universe domain, to fix that problem in becoming, right, and having lives, right? So once it's done doing that, fixing all the dark bands that would be out here in the human experience in 3D, then it doesn't need to come back and do it anymore, and it can exist just in the inner domain as pure mind, in the windowless singularity, and become part of the universal, retain a personal identity, yet share a voice with the collective universal consciousness. Neat, right? Man, there's so much you can do with this now, right? Yeah, so Huxley never really got this stuff that well in his books, but I could tell this is what he meant. Anyway, I think he'd be happy with this. Anyway, that was fun, wasn't it? That was fun because I had new ideas come in that I didn't really think of producing yet. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed that, and we will hopefully talk again soon. Bye-bye.